So I went through 7 years of singleness, and that time included my separation and divorce. And what all of that time with myself taught me is, I'd say the number one thing it taught me was that decision and that time with myself was the best act of love that I could have provided for myself. And even though it was a struggle, it was painful to make the decision to separate and to divorce. It wasn't a painful decision to be single, actually. It was something I really wanted, actually, while I was married. I know that sounds a little wild because it's like the whole idea of being married is to spend your time with someone. But the whole time I was married, I just envied single women. And what I will say is, while I've been single, it's been great. And it's not that I'm opposed to relationships or that I don't think that they're important and have value. They absolutely do. But I realize that you have to be one with yourself first. And I definitely wasn't that before I got married. And so, yeah. So honestly, it took me having all this time with myself to realize that. Another thing that it helped me realize is, like, at the time, I didn't understand that my singleness, or like being single and going through divorce, like, that wasn't the only option, but I made it my only option. And I'm okay with that decision. You know, each woman is different. Everyone's situation is different. And again, deep down, I wanted to be to myself and to discover myself and to just allow myself to truly be who I knew I was, but I couldn't be while I was married, and I couldn't be before I got married even. And so this time, again, being with myself as an adult woman has just been absolutely amazing. And even though, again, the years of it hasn't been all perfect, that is for sure. But yeah, I wouldn't trade any of it. I wouldn't trade any of it. Honestly, any of the decisions, any of the things I've gone through, which have not been pleasant, but this last 7 years has been, I mean, the way that my life is shaping up for the future, it wouldn't be as magnificent as it's going to be if I hadn't allowed myself the 7 years. So that's the one thing. And what's interesting is what I see now is what I was so desperate for during my marriage and before really was unconditional love. And that was never something I experienced in my entire life, was unconditional love. And so it wasn't until, again, I've had this time, these 7 years, to just be with myself and love on myself and explore what love looks and feels like for me, and to determine the things that I care about and don't care about and strengthen my own values. And so I've really learned how to separate myself from other people and separate other people's expectations that are projected onto me, to see them as just that, a projection, that it doesn't have anything to do with me, and it doesn't mean it's something that I have to agree to do or not do. And I've really strengthened that skill set, I'd say, over the last few years. I've really strengthened that. And so now I can strongly and confidently say who I am and what I stand for and what I don't stand for. And that has nothing to do with someone else. And there's no judgment if someone else wants to do that or whatever. But I no longer function off of expectations that are projected onto me. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't have expectations or I don't have expectations. But now is more or less, what is my expectation of myself? What is my standard for myself? What do I know I'm willing to do and die on a hill for? it has very little to do with what someone else expects for you to believe if you don't believe it strongly for yourself. So again, these last few years, man, I've learned so much, but the ultimate lesson has been love. It really has. And I never knew what self-love was before, because I grew up in a time and space and environment and culture where you give, give, give. You know, that makes you a good person by how much you give and how much you sacrifice and how little you allow yourself. And yeah, I no longer attest to that. That is no longer a value of mine. It never was a value of mine, truly. It just was something that maybe many of you have done like me, and you just accept it as that's just the way things are, and that's just the way life is supposed to be for you, and it doesn't have to be by any means. And so no, yeah, love, love for yourself, man. There's no deeper love, and that's really what I've come to realize is if you can't deeply love yourself, and I guess, let's define what love is. Love is not love isn't even what you do or don't do for yourself. I think love is just this decision that regardless of how you feel or what you look like or don't look like, that you're going to show up for yourself and that you're going to uphold your standards for yourself. To me, like, that's what love embodies. Yeah, like you are a walking, talking example of what I guess you want other people to be, and how you want other people to treat you. And so yeah, it's like in terms of a relationship, is when I get married again, how am I going to have an example of what love feels like for me deep in my bones if I haven't experienced that for myself? And just because you're with another person doesn't mean that you've truly experienced true love. And so I really have and do experience true love with myself, and it's only going to get better. And I realize that we don't have to forego that when we're in relationships. And again, it just makes it better when each individual is just so in love with themselves that they're always going to make sure that they rise to the occasion, and that their integrity won't allow for them to treat someone the way that they wouldn't want to be treated. Like, why wouldn't a relationship prosper from that? So that's my new way of looking at it. And again, without this time, space to myself, I would not have come to that realization. So I'm just so grateful for the strength I had mustered up to make such a decision as to end my marriage. And regardless of how people feel about it, they weren't in my life, just like whoever, if any women who are listening to this can relate, you were in that marriage, or you're in that marriage, in that relationship now, and only you. Honestly, not even your partner. They don't even know, right? Only you deeply, deeply, deeply know what you're going through and what you're having to give up to be in that relationship. And I don't think anyone can judge you for wanting to not be miserable, or wanting to not be mediocre, or to not be basic in your relationship. So to me, that has now, and I guess at the time I didn't realize it, but that is now a standard of mine, is to be excellent and to at least strive for excellence, even if that's not something I feel like I can attain in the fullness that I would like for it to happen. I'm no longer just showing up subpar. Like, who wants to be subpar? Like, what? Yeah, not me. So yeah, definitely not doing that. So I guess I already knew that towards the end of my marriage, which is why I just went ahead and pulled the trigger and made that life-altering decision. But it was it was, yes, it was a major decision, but I see it as being a major decision for me. I feel like I was casting votes in my favor, not against myself. And I feel like a lot of people have maybe judged my decision, but I feel like I was showing love for myself, not against my nature or against who I am or what so no. Um, and what I will say is, I'll end with this, is if I could say one thing to a woman who's in a similar space where you're in a relationship, girl, and it's not it. It's not it, not necessarily for him. It's not it for you. You know that you're not showing up in the way that you want to. You know that you're not feeling vibrant and excited and loving and just full of life for yourself. And maybe ending your relationship isn't the answer. It doesn't have to be the answer. But definitely ending how you show up for yourself and how you're neglecting yourself and sacrificing yourself, abandoning yourself, that's where the decision to end that needs to take place. And so I would just say to you, ultimately, you're in a relationship because you want to feel love. And all that deep longing for love is, you're the love you seek. You can be that love. And I'd wager to say that when you make yourself the love that you seek, anything, literally anything and everything that you do, touch, the way you walk, it just will exude so much to anyone that's in your field that they're gonna know, oh, this woman moves a little different. She really cares about herself. She really loves herself. She really shows up for herself. And I think that's just the conclusion, is you are the love that you seek. Don't look outside of yourself. Look within. Give yourself that love. And I think life will be so much brighter for you. Till next time, cheers.